Do you believe in magic? If you don't, you will by the end of this episode. If you do, you want to listen so you can find out how to create and experience more magic. Let's welcome special guest Angela DeCarlis to the Tougher Together Breakthrough Podcast. The Tougher Together Breakthrough Podcast is brought to you by RebeccaSilence.com. Please visit RebeccaSilence.com today. That's RebeccaSilence.com to learn more about programs for individuals, couples, children, families, and businesses. See for yourself at RebeccaSilence.com, RebeccaSilence.com, what's possible for your next steps in breakthrough and healing. So what is a breakthrough? It's finding your way out of suffering and stuck. It's that feeling of new energy, renewed life, and excitement. When I was 7 months pregnant with my second baby, I received a life-changing diagnosis. I had cancer. When I told my older daughter, she said, "So you're going to die?" And the only thing that saved my life during that time was knowing how to emotionally break through. Welcome to the Tougher Together Breakthrough Podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Silence. I'm a speaker, coach, and the creator of Healing is Possible. In each episode, I prepare you for life no matter what challenges you're facing. I'm going to invite you into the stories of real people who are living life in breakthrough and making the world a better place. If they can do it, so can you. Breakthrough is your right. Get ready to break through. Get ready for the rest of your life. Do you believe in magic? Our next guest is here to show you how to create magic no matter your situation or circumstance. She believes that we can have it all, and she's creating that for herself through magic making. Welcome, Angela DeCarlis, special guest to the Tougher Together Breakthrough Podcast. We are so blessed and excited to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and be part of this magic that you're making. And I'm honored to be among all the wonderful guests that have been prior to us talking today. So I am just really happy to be here.
Me too. And our journey is a really interesting one. We have lots of layers to our relationship. And in my opinion, breakthrough has allowed us to reinvent and stay friends for a decade. One of my favorite parts about our relationship, Angela, is that we support each other's growth and evolution. And we have grown together and supported each other's individual growth along the way.
Absolutely. I truly believe our relationship has been such a beautiful teacher for me, and also like a milestone and multiple levels and a standard, right? Like, a standard for like, what is friendship? What does it look like? A real connection, real magic in your life, and love and all of those things. So I am so grateful.
I am too. And let's just dive in. I would love it if we could start with you just sharing your definition of breakthrough.
Sure. I had an interesting dynamic with breakthrough for a while. It felt like a while, but it was really not a very long time. My first breakthrough that I can recall was at your retreat, a women's weekend. And it was when I first discovered self-growth work, and I just knew I was called to do it. And I had picked a value statement, I am free. And I had my first mind-blowing, full-body reaction. And what it meant for me and what it means to me is that life will never be the same. It's not something that you think through. It's not something that is an aha moment. It's like once you get this breakthrough in that fully integrated way, that life is never the same again. And it wasn't after that. And then I was completely enthralled with growth and was ready for like, okay, what's next, So a breakthrough is definitely something that is completely life-changing, and a breakthrough is a full body experience. It's not just your mind understanding something. And that's the point I wanted to make.
Yeah. What was life like before breakthrough, and what's life like now?
So I can honestly say life wasn't terrible. You know, like everybody goes through the life and we're all fine. Like we're going to get through it. You go through it, you do the things that you need to do, you pay your bills, you go to work, you have your friends, you go out and have a good time here and there. But ultimately, I knew that there was something that was missing in my life. And I knew that purpose was out there for me and I wanted to find it. And I felt, if I was going to describe it visually, which as an artist, I'm a very visual person, the more I delved into it and really understood where I was, it was like I was tied down like by shoulds and obligations and who I thought I needed to be versus who I really was. So before breakthrough, I was a single mother. I was doing well financially. I had a good corporate sales position. I was educated. I was doing pretty well, you know, and going through life day to day, the normal grind, you know, successful, but not fulfilled. And so when I went and had my first breakthrough at the Women's Weekend, I realized at that point that I could have all of those things plus more and be a full-time artist, which was really in my heart of hearts and what I wanted to do. You know, there was bits and pieces of the creativity coming back into my life, and it felt like a fire hose that I couldn't shut off, and I didn't want to shut it off. And the creativity and the joy that I got and how connected to myself I was when I was painting was unparalleled, and I hadn't felt that. So the breakthrough was truly key to unleashing the creativity and the next chapter of my life.
Yeah. And so what happened? What did breakthrough do to impact your life? And tell us more about the journey.
Yes. So I was lucky enough to have Rebecca supporting me through all the trials and tribulations of starting my own business, which I had the master's in business and, you know, all of that, but it doesn't necessarily prepare you for your own business and your own limiting beliefs and, patterns and things that don't lead you to success. So I had a lot of stories that I told myself for a lot of years on why I couldn't do this. And so what happened was I did it. I went to the retreat, and then I had made a plan with Rebecca to quit in 6 months my corporate job and, you know, set a win for myself up to try to make a go of this. Now, when I say a win, now most people would be like, you crazy girl for like quitting your job and like starting this off. And it was like a really scary leap of faith in the direction of my love, you know. And what I knew is that there's always a backup plan. Like I will figure it out. That's one thing that I always knew about myself, is that when I set a goal, I usually always achieve it, and that if it doesn't work out, I always figure it out. So like that was the thing that I trusted when I took the leap and was like, you know what, I'm not going to regret this. Like this is something that I am meant to do, and I'm going to go for it. And I did it. And then I created a successful art business in Utica, New York, where a lot of people would say that that wasn't possible, right? Like Utica, New York is my home, and I'm so grateful to have had the support of the community here and the opportunity to grow as an artist and as a community arts activist and supporting other artists and those types of things. But I had to figure it out for myself first, you know? So from starting painting frozen princesses and Converse sneakers out of the third bedroom of my room to now, you know, 7 years later, rebranded, third company, and all of that was possible for not only the first breakthrough, but multiple breakthroughs on my path to this place. So, you know, the first one I would say was the easiest, But I don't know if that's true really, but in comparison to the other ones, I would say it came easier because I was just so willing and so ready to pop, and so these following years, as you start learning and unraveling yourself and seeing the thoughts, the behaviors, the limiting beliefs, all those things, getting let go of those, you start ripping it back. And then it's like, okay, what else? Okay, what else? But then it gets a little harder and a little harder and a little harder as a coach, and as people we know, as you start waking up to who you are, blind zones are real. Like, you don't know what you don't know, and you can't see the things that are holding you back all the time. But they're there, and if you're willing, you'll find them for sure.
And would you say that's what breakthrough is? It's the willingness and then connection to the blind zones with the possibility on the other side being so in your face.
Yes, I would say that is a huge part of that. And like, how committed are you to yourself? Because if you're not committed to you and your dream and your inspiration, it's like chasing your tail, there has to be belief. There has to be that magic that only you have and you connect to, that leads you to the next one and the next one and the next one. And I talk about a lot with my clients and people that I work with about following the crumbs, following the crumbs. Because at first, it's not like a lightning bolt strikes you one day, right? Like there's things that we find inspirational and joyful and purposeful, and we know that we feel good when we do it, but we have every story why we shouldn't be doing it, or we're not good enough for it, or people are going to say this about me if I do it. But the thing is like following those crumbs, regardless of circumstance, regardless of financial ability, regardless of whether you think you can do it or not, So in self-growth, there's been so much trauma and pain that has fueled everything that I know to be true. But also, I think it's really important that people follow their joy in their creativity and their inspiration, because that's how you create more of it. And, it's personally, I had a really hard time and still have challenges accepting wins, accepting success, accepting greatness. And I think that that's a big part. If you're going to manifest and be a master manifester and a divine creator, you got to believe that you're one. And I found it just a lot easier to believe that I'm just going to make it, or I'll get through it, or I'll have just enough, because that's the story I always had, versus I can manifest literally anything I want. And I have evidence of that now too. And it's just like, what's easier to believe? And so now it's really cool, and the table's turning, and like, I believe it. I can do this. I can create this. And not only can I create it, I want to support other people creating it, because that's magic, and that's how that happens. And what's more worth it than creating the life you want?
And when you're talking about crumbs, are they crumbs literally called creativity, joy, and inspiration? Is that what you're saying? Follow those crumbs of creativity, joy, and inspiration. And then what was the shift, Angela? Like from not believing, but maybe hoping, to I believe it?
I think it was letting go of what I thought success looked like. Like, the learned success, and there's nothing wrong with what I'm going to say. Like, if you have these things, it doesn't mean that you're not successful. But for me, the BMW, the house, the money, the title, the corporate job, the clout of corporate, I thought I needed to have to be successful. And that is not what led me to success or happiness. It was completely the opposite. It was getting in the roots of my community, giving my time away, creating from my heart, building a business that not only supported me financially and my family, but the community, and exploring other people's talents, and displaying what this world has to give. Not only Utica, but there are creative people all over the planet that don't believe that they can do it. And that's what I get jazzed up about, because I believe there is that divine creator in every single person, and that creative point in us is the magic place. And maybe you're an engineer and it's designing a car or a house or a building, or maybe it's a stay-at-home mother that creates beautiful lunches for her kids, or maybe just creates a beautiful life, and that's what matters. Your garden, or painting, or a podcast, or anything. Creativity isn't just a certain skill set, and that's what I want people to really feel, that, because it shows up and it's like, hey, I'm here, pay attention to me. And it's like your little kid that's inside of you that's like, hey, remember we used to go play in that fort when you were 7 or 8? Like, I had this place when I was like 8 called Terabithia, and like I didn't know at the time that it was like a book, like a best-selling book, but one of my kids in my neighborhood were like, hey, let's call our fort Terabithia, and I was like, that's awesome. And it was this tree in Florida that had like the Spanish moss growing down over it, and when we walked in, we were kings and queens, and we were creative, and we made capes and jesters and all these different roles, and we were exactly who we wanted to be there. But in the grand scheme of things, this whole world is Terabithia, and you get to create your reality. So if your reality isn't what you want it to be, you have the power to create yourself as a king or a queen, or whatever it is that you want to call yourself or create for yourself. It's all perspective, and following those crumbs of joy, inspiration, connection, all of those things. Creativity, for me, is the main one, but for everybody it's a little different, I believe.
I love what you're saying. And then what would you say about the magic? Does it come before or after the results change? Because my strong opinion is that until you're experiencing magic in your life as it is, the results, the reality doesn't shift or change or grow.
No, I couldn't agree more. The magic is always there. It's just, are you choosing it or not? Are you seeing it or not? Are you taking action towards it or not? Are you ignoring it? Are you like, oh yeah, that would be cool, but then not really doing anything with it? So there's that inner magic from childhood that everybody has. I don't care who you are, what trauma you have. There was a bit of you somewhere that had that. And tapping into that is very challenging a lot of the time, because we have layers, and like I said, like tied down, like bound with those thoughts, bound with the patterns, bound with the traumas. And you can set yourself free with breakthrough and following yourself and believing in those crumbs. And the magic has always been there with you. And, as you continue to go through life and those little pieces show up, and if you're lucky enough, like I was, to be able to find them and follow them, then you might be a little more open and have an opportunity to show your magic in a different way. But for now, if you're just getting started, you can do it, and it is in you. And all you got to do, I swear, best exercise I could do was, when you were a little kid, what was your favorite thing to do? Like, what was your favorite thing? And then, like, where was I when I was doing that thing? Who was with me when I did that thing? How did I feel when I was doing that thing? And that's a little exercise that you could do if you're, like, not sure where to start, to kind of find the first crumb, and then go from there. So.
Yeah. And then If you're watching this on YouTube, I literally have this fly that won't leave me alone. I think about what you're saying, like the magic and the creativity. It's kind of like this fly. Like, I guess we're hanging out. I guess the fly is part of it, right? Like the magic, the creativity, it's literally flying around us all the time. And the answers are right there. It's like, they're hidden in plain sight, that crumb of joy, creativity, inspiration. It's right in front of your face and it's never leaving you. And then are you willing to trust in and see that it's there? The next thing I would love for you to speak to, Angela, is, what was it that had to happen for you to take the risk to go for it and risk that safety and security? Because like you said, life was really good and then something was just missing. And not only have you, how many murals do you have around the community where you live?
Probably like 30.
And how many artists have you featured and brought together and represented in that community over the years? Hundreds. And how many people have attended your events over the years where you're bringing the community together through creativity, art, and magic? Thousands, right. And she's just beginning. And at the same time that Angela went from corporate America and built all of this, and like she said earlier, she's in her third evolution and iteration of her company. Now she's got a lifestyle and magic shop and an art gallery for local artists. And she's a life coach and all the things. But while you built this career, you also healed and reinvented your relationship with your son, met the love of your life, brought him in and his 2 daughters, got married, took on your health. What was it that you needed to do to risk going for it in all areas and having it all?
What I needed to do was get real about who I was going to be for the rest of my life. And I also, in this time period, as you know, healed from the loss and grief of my mother. So my mom passed when I was 18 years old, and I was pretty angry at the world. And that's another reason why creativity was such a savior for me. I was able to work through a lot of that. But the reason why I'm bringing it up now is because she was a big inspiration in deciding to make a change. Because I was like, time is not promised, and life is not promised, and tomorrow may not be tomorrow. And like, if I was to die or lose my life, would I feel fulfilled in it? Would I feel like I made the impact that I wanted to make on this planet in my family? Not just like the community, but in my family, with my son. Do I have partnership? Do I have, am I the person that I really want to be? And that's where B came from. Like, who am I going to be? The state of being I'm in, is it serving me? And that was one of the hardest things for me to do. And that's why I picked B, because it was so hard for me to just be. I felt like I had to do. And even though we have a list of things that I am busy, right? But letting go of the busyness and the obligation and leaping into who I was meant to be on this planet and what I'm here to do and serve is what the difference was. It wasn't just about me anymore. It was about what service, what impact am I going to make on the planet, and how can I do that in the most inspired, heartfelt way. And that's when my life really started hitting the gas and going. It was like, as soon as I made it about, yes, do I want things? Yes. Do I manifest things for myself? Of course. There's nothing wrong with that. But ultimately, my place on this planet is to serve people, my community, the world, however you want to put it, creatively. And as soon as I figured that part out, the rest was kind of like, what's next?
Yeah. And how has support, we talked about it early on in this episode, how has support been a factor? And how do you get the right support, and how do you be support? And by the way, when she's talking about B, that's the name of her company.
Yes. Sorry, I didn't share that. Support. Okay, no one gets to the top of the mountain themselves, right? So whether it was Rebecca or Master Coach Heather Steele, mentors that I've had, business consultants, and of course my husband, that has believed in me sometimes more than when I didn't believe in myself, and my son. But like allowing other people to support you, and being a single mom, that wasn't something I was really good at. You know, I was like putting my cape on. I got it. I handled it. Miss Independent. I don't need anybody. I can do it myself. Right? And that wasn't true, you know, because you're not going to be able to live a balanced, purposeful life if you're doing everything all the time by yourself, right? You got to have people that are in your corner that are supportive, and also not be attached to who those people are. Because how often do you think a friendship is something that it's not, or a family member be somebody that they're not? And like knowing where your strengths and weaknesses are, and then finding the right people that believe in your vision, that believe in you, that love you. And it doesn't matter if they have the title of brother or father or mother or best friend. It's like, I'm a true believer, like I said, in the divine intervention of things and people. And people are put in your life for a reason. So don't be attached to the package of support. Allow it to show up as it's supposed to. And the more real I got with myself, and the more real I was about my life, the more real people that found their way to me. And I do truly want to thank you and Heather and the Legacy International curriculum and all the beautiful coaches that I've had the absolute honor of knowing and working with to teach me that.
Yeah.
But but for anybody else that isn't in this work, they don't have to be coaches. Good people are in all kinds of packages and talents and gifts, and you just have to allow them to show up for you and show up for them.
And let's talk about that next. So you've literally, one woman brought an entire community together and made the town your masterpiece. Your art, your murals, your magic is all over the place when it comes to that town. What is it that you want people to know about being support to other people's magic and creativity?
Yes. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate that. I do see, so yes, I feel like I was kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Pied Piper, right? Like I had this belief and I had this vision for what was possible here creatively, and then I shared it with other people. But again, I'm going to give kudos to the Utica artists and community members and companies that believed and people that showed up. You know, granted, yes, I was one person that had this idea, but ultimately it took a village and a whole community to make all of that possible. So, but what I want to share is that with all of those things happening and the vision that all of you have, magic and vision, you all have been leaving your impact everywhere forever. Like your magic is everywhere, in your children, in your families, in your friendships, in your home, in your community, like in your jobs. I mean, God, medical professionals, hello, COVID, oh my God, like you guys are amazing. And I know that there is 100 different roles and people, but I'm just saying, like, I don't know any kind of magic maker like healthcare people. I mean, my heart, thank you so much for everything that you've done to support our world in the conditions that we've been in. And no matter what your life entails, you are leaving magic everywhere. But how much do you want to leave? Like, there's probably more you could do. There's probably more you could be. There's probably, some sort of inspiration that you got deep down in your belly that has not been released yet, that the world deserves to see your gifts and your talents and who you are, because no one else is you. Nobody. No one else can leave that mark and that magic like you can. So what are you waiting for? You can do that. That's what you're here for. So this was my kind of magic, and I'm still learning. I'm still learning about what else I'm supposed to be here to do, right? I'm just following the crumbs like I tell other people to. And then the crumbs just get a little bigger, Now there might be a boulder, But, as you keep following yourself and believing you are magic, more comes and more shows up. And it's so beautiful how messages and experiences come, and people and music and movies and nature and all different kinds of things. So if you don't believe you're leaving magic, you are. You really just got to take a minute and review your life and write it down, journal it, paint it, draw it. Even if you're not a drawer, sometimes it's really good to get a little messy with some paints or some pencils or even pens and doodle. You'd be surprised what comes out even when you're doodling in that meeting you don't want to be paying attention to, right? So,
well, before I met you, it's so funny because I did not think I was an artist. And I think what you're telling us about following those crumbs of joy, creativity, and inspiration, but also, and maybe even more importantly, challenging our definition of success. What is that definition of success? Let's challenge it, because if your definition of success isn't bringing you more to life, then why not shake it up? And then what if our lives are art? What if our lives are magic? And the more, I would suggest, Angela, I want to know what you think, but the more we're in our magic and living it and giving it away, the more we get to experience.
Oh my goodness, yes. I wholeheartedly agree with that on every level. The more you are participating in your own magic and connection is the key to all of those inspirational moments that make you tear up. And you start even remembering more of your life that was great. As I started going through my timeline through the work that we do and things like that, I had remembered things a certain way, but the more I delved into them and realized, wow, I had a lot of joy in that. It seemed like something that it wasn't, but it really was joyful. It really was a creative experience. It may have been a challenge, but it was an inspired challenge, right? It was art school had its different things that happened, and I thought oh, that class really, sucked. I don't want to take that class. But ultimately, I gained so much more from failing and more creativity and more gumption to keep going and be okay, it's cool. It's not my bag. I'm not doing, pottery. But, and I do like to do pottery. I just don't like to be graded on it. Right. So as you continue to go through and find your inspiration, all the failures are beautiful too. How do you know what you're made of if you don't fail?
Yeah. Well, and when it feels hard, more magic.
Right. Just amp up the magic amplifier and let, it fly.
Yeah.
It's what are you committed to?
What homework do you have for our gorgeous audience?
I would love for all of you to find magic in yourself. So when I say that, remember I was talking to you a little bit about an exercise that you could do. So even if it's not something that you pursue, which I highly recommend you do, it's good to know. So write down the thing that was your favorite as a child. How did you feel when you were doing it? How often did you do it? Who were the people that supported it or who was with you in those moments? And then try to kind of look through stages of your life and try to find it. And I bet you that when you're happier in your life, more of that is present than when you're not happy. So I challenge you to really take a real look at yourselves and find your loves and your magic and your inspiration. And then if you're really feeling like taking on a challenge, take one action step towards that magic or towards the love of your life or towards that inspiration the next day and see how you feel. And then honor those things also in the people around you. So acknowledge someone else's magic, because
that's great.
Sometimes people know that it exists, and until they really see it, a lot of the time, like I said, like my husband and other people really acknowledged my magic until I could see it. And it really helped fuel that I believed I could do it. I can do it. And it's not putting it on other people, but it sure does. It's nice. And especially for someone that's struggling or isn't really sure if they can do it, it just could be those moments, those special heartfelt words can change an experience for somebody.
I love it. Yeah, acknowledge the magic in others. Angela, I acknowledge the magic in you. I'm so grateful that you and me and this fly got to hang out today. And how do people get a hold of you?
Yes. So you can find me on my website is www.belife.us. Also, if you want to take a look at my shop of all the beautiful magical goodies that I have, it's belifestyleshop.com. You can also find me on Facebook at belifecoach or on Instagram the same. And I also now have a TikTok. Oh my gosh, I did it. And that's at belife.artmagic. So I hope to hear from you. I'd love to hear feedback. It's been an honor. I'd love to hear from you what magic you found in yourself if you'd want to share it. So,
final thoughts.
Follow the crumbs. Do it. There's no time like the present. Get connected, create something new, and, break through what you think you can't, because you absolutely can. And if you don't feel like it's possible, find the right support and you will get there. Much love to all of you. I wish you nothing but the best. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Please note that the content of this podcast is not meant to be therapeutic or to replace any personal growth work that you are already doing with a coach, therapist, or mentor. Take the content, have it inspire you, and then keep working with your support system. Breakthrough is your right. Breakthrough reminds us that we're tougher together and that we're connected to possibility even in the most challenging and possibly darkest times. I'm Rebecca Silence, creator of Healing is Possible and proud host of the Tougher Together Breakthrough podcast, where we come together and we tell stories of real breakthrough that exist for you as well. Get ready to break through. Get ready to live more free and get ready to experience more breakthrough, because that's your right. If you like what you're hearing on the Tougher Together Breakthrough podcast with me, your host, Rebecca Silence, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. If you want to get in touch with me, visit RebeccaSilence.com. Your time is now. Your breakthrough begins now.